Sinead O'Connor, was she maybe the most misunderstood woman ever? Well, yes and no. I'm refilming this intro because I started out wanting to react to some of Sinead's interviews because I wanted to know more about her. The first interview, I thought, wow, I really relate to her in so many ways. And I just read Britney Spears' biography, The Woman in Me. There are so many similarities there. Britney, of course, also shaved her head. And now that I'm reading Sinead's book, I'm realizing Sinead and Britney shaved their head for very similar reasons. The same for Doja Cat in a way. Sinead's reason shocked me, and we'll get into that. Britney's too. Sinead had a very complicated relationship with her image and persona, which seemed largely tied to her mental health. When you think of a woman in music whose image is important to their career, who do you picture? Like Madonna maybe? Gaga? Certainly Britney. Sinead's image was just as important to her career, even though she may not have wanted it. When it came to her image, there were two timelines that really stood out to me. The first 10 years of her career, as well as the last 10 years. When she went from here to here to here to here in just the last 10 years. By the way, this is past Io. She knew nothing about any of this. Or about Sinead, really. She was just reacting to interviews to learn more about her. I'm future Io. I'll come in every now and then as a woman who read her book. I've watched the documentary and done tons of research. But I think it's valuable to go on the same journey that I did. Oh, and as a warning, I had to get a little creative with these interviews. At least the first two because of copyright, but hopefully it'll be clear. I haven't seen anybody talking about Sinead's last 10 years, and those interviews were essential to figuring it out. The interview begins with Sinead saying how lovely it is to meet Daniel Radcliffe.
Because, believe it or not, one of my children had many imaginary baths with you.
Sinead says she bathes him often, as I'm sure most children would like to with Harry Potter.
Nice to meet you. It's nice to get better acquainted.
Yeah.
Sinead said it's nice to meet you with your clothes on, and Graham says...
Under a cloak of invisibility.
Under a cloak of invisibility.
Congratulations. You're singing The Wolf is Getting Married, and I think it's the best thing you've done in
Have you heard that song? Is that a good song?
Fantastic.
This was a comeback album for Sinead, and this is the actual album cover, but Graham says...
I forgot. I rushed out earlier and bought it.
Oh, that's not it.
Wait, what?
That's not the cover of my record. Where'd you buy that?
I don't know if this was planned. It's a funny bit, and she talks about it in a moment, but it's pretty obvious Sinead's management was trying to lighten up her image. And it shows how charming she is, but still how allergic she is to Hollywood crap.
Go well. This is not gonna.
No. There isn't even one in it.
Wow, she really got him, huh? You think that was planned?
I must have left it in the car.
But the light-hearted repartee takes a turn when Graham asks...
Say, now, so, how are you? You're right. Huh? You're well. Well, no, because people worry about you, because we've read all these things about you and
blah, blah, blah. I don't know what way I'm supposed to answer those kind of questions, because...
Yeah, that was really weird. Why would they ask her that? It's awkward. It's like an awkward question to ask a guest on a talk show. Are you okay? Are you all right? Like, what? It's very odd. And I like Graham Norton, too.
Because in the one way I want to talk about music, and another way, the only thing that does bother me about all this stuff is that I've kind of dealt with 25 years of this, you know, everybody treat me like a crazy person thing, you know, and it's a great source of amusement and entertainment, and we live in a world where crazy is a term of abuse.
Unfortunately.
You know?
Sinead is speaking facts, but look how uncomfortable Graham is.
I know you don't mean harm, and I
No,
adore you.
seriously,
So I know you don't mean harm.
You could tell she feels compelled to speak on this, but that this is also not what she intended for this interview.
People go, are you all right? What do I do? Well, how do I prove whether I am or
suppose
not?
you prove you're all right by being here and smiling.
Oh my God, I'm like,
Anyway,
I am feeling this.
On one hand, I got record company quite rightly and everyone going, don't say anything. On the other hand, I'm like, you know, that's why I was saying
I know,
this.
exactly.
What you see now before you is why I actually sing. When I see me singing, I make sense. Right? Don't make sense talking, that's why I sing.
All right. Look,
Oh my
Sinead,
God.
Go sing.
Wow.
Go sing.
I was feeling this so much. I could just palpably feel what she was feeling because it started out so lighthearted. I think this interview was meant to be lighthearted, and Graham Norton is so good at that. He's so good at making people like comfortable enough to be funny. That's one of his great talents. I'm not a therapist, but this really feels like someone who has CPTSD. I'm guessing just because I myself have CPTSD. You could see she was upset by a question, but at the same time she wanted to keep it together and keep it cool. You gotta reel it back in. And this is something that happens so often with people with CPTSD, and in particular who were raised with not being listened to. This is what I'm guessing. And in fact, what she said earlier about the media making her out to be crazy, I have to admit that was kind of the notion that I had gotten, like that she was like somehow unhinged. And now I'm like not seeing that at all. I realize how charming she is, funny, you know, straight shooter. That's what I'm seeing. And I feel real now. Ever kind of like had this mistaken notion of her? Because I didn't know anything about her, I had no idea if she actually had CPTSD. But Sinead indeed came out and confessed that she was diagnosed with it. Call me Dr. Io. I don't know, would you trust a cat ear-wearing psychiatrist? But in this article, she also confessed her dislike of Dr. Phil, the tragedy vulture that he is. But I didn't know any of that when I reacted to the following interview. It was just how I learned about her iconic shaved head. Sinead's mother cut her hair short when she was a little girl, so Dr. Phil asked why she would shave her head as an adult.
When we were children, my sister had the most beautiful red hair, glorious red hair, the type you'd be jealous of, like just beautiful. You know, like that gorgeous woman
love red hair.
on that show Mad Men,
Christina
Jessica Rabbit looking,
Hendricks.
you know. But my mother took it into her head that my sister's hair was ugly and horrible and disgusting. When I had long hair, she would introduce us as her pretty daughter and her ugly daughter.
Oh.
I didn't want to be pretty. It was dangerous to be pretty too because I kept getting molested everywhere I went.
This is so incredibly sad. Typical one for CPTSD is abuse. And definitely the same for what I was saying earlier too about not being listened to, because abuse is the ultimate in not being listened to. Someone else's needs being put above your own. So Dr. Phil wants to know if anybody else knows this is why she shaves her head.
A couple of my friends, you know. But that was a huge part of it. I didn't want to be molested. I did not want to dress like a girl. I did not want to be pretty. You know, other girls beat you up if you're pretty too. The other reason was in the music business. I was asked one day by my record company, would I grow my hair long and wear short skirts because they wanted to sell me on my sexuality. And I was like, I didn't want to be sold on that.
Donna, who quite literally sold was probably the prototype Sinead's label has in mind when they want her to dress sexier. Sinead records her debut in 1986, while Madonna has just released her biggest selling studio album, True Blue. Apparently there was no love lost between Sinead and Madonna. I don't get it. More than not, these women share a lot. In further research, I found this article where Sinead calls Madonna out for saying that Sinead looked like she had a run-in with a lawnmower and had as much sex appeal as a Venetian blind. But Madonna also took flack from other women for relying too much on her appearance. For example, Joni Mitchell and Suzanne Vega, both women I really love and respect.
Suzanne, what do you think is great about Madonna?
That's assuming a lot, you know. That's assuming I think something's great about her. I think she has an amazing ability for self-promotion.
By 1992, both are in the depths of their career. The book Madonna releases is extremely successful, but causes incredible backlash. Ironically, Sinead's influence probably contributed. In addition to being the first in a spate of gender non-conforming women in the music industry, like Tracy Chapman, Katie Lang, you can also say she inspires grunge and riot girl fashion. The very sex-positive Madonna receives backlash from her core audience, along with conservatives as usual. Maybe that's why Madonna does this. A parody of Sinead tearing up the Pope's picture, for which Sinead gets harsh, career-ending criticism, showing that as a woman in music, no matter which route you take, you can't win. backlash against Madonna for being honest about, and backlash against Sinead for just being honest. I knew Sinead's message was against SA in the Catholic Church, but I never knew Sinead discovers this as a young girl. As a punishment, her parents send her to live with nuns. The nuns punish Sinead by making her take care of young girls who were unwed mothers. Several of these outcasts were incredibly young girls who were secretly pregnant by priests and church officials in the Catholic Church. Poop. He's a poop, but no, it was the Pope, and he covered it up.
Yeah, to me the Pope symbolises everything that is evil. He is a symbol in particular. That pictures of him when he did his tour of Ireland. Ireland has the highest instance in Europe of child abuse. I experienced it myself, and I found his presence in Ireland, telling the young people of Ireland that he loved them, hilarious.
Sinead and Madonna are at these dark points in their career. Madonna later discusses it.
If you're a girl, you have to play the game. What is that game? You are allowed to be pretty and cute and sexy, but don't act too smart. Don't have an opinion. Don't have an opinion that is out of line with the status quo, at least. You are allowed to be objectified by men and dress like a slut, but don't own your sluttiness. And do not, I repeat, do not share your own sexual fantasies with the world. Be what men want you to be, but more importantly, be what women feel comfortable with you being around other men.
Grunge fizzles out. Pop becomes fresh again. First with the Spice Girls, then let's talk about Britney.
It's Britney, bitch.
Honestly, Madonna has been a prototype for pop stars now, currently, still. But according to Britney's book, she lacks Madonna's ability to be truly in control of her career. Britney's a good Southern girl. Seeing Britney's early photos breaks my heart. What a sweet, sensitive, talented girl. It's so sad to see the light go out in her eyes. My favorite moments in her book are when she's discussing developing her artistry during her childhood. Whimsical moments in nature, listening to a housekeeper who she was close to and who had this beautiful gospel singing voice, which explains why a little girl sounded like this. You would think that this more obedient Madonna would not get the same kind of bad treatment that Sinead or the actual Madonna got, but you would be wrong. She got body shamed and shamed like Madonna did. She takes it all, the abuse, exploitation.
They managed to snap a picture that didn't cast you in the best light.
Oh, of course, that is their job, and they do a very good job at it. And they've crossed the line so many times, you know, and I think because I'm a sweet young girl, nothing ever gets really done about it.
Legitimate people weighing in, saying, you know what, that's dangerous. And she put her child at risk. Is Britney a bad mom?
Mm-hmm. Makes you really strong.
Make you weep?
Oh, I've wept.
But the final straw is when they won't let her see her kids.
And so that night, I gave them some material. I went into a hair salon, and I took the clippers, and I shaved off all my hair. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Look at how crazy she is. Even my parents acted embarrassed by me. But nobody seemed to understand that I was simply out of my mind with grief. My children had been taken away from me. With my head shaved, everyone was scared of me, even my mom. No one would talk to me anymore because I was too ugly. My long hair was a big part of what people liked. I knew that. I knew a lot of guys thought long hair was hot. Shaving my head was a way of saying to the world, F you. You want me to be pretty for you? F you. You want me to be good for you? F you. You want me to be your dream girl? You.
I'd be surprised if Britney in that moment didn't take some inspiration from Sinead. for people to take her seriously. In Sinead's book, in 1986, she too finds out she's going to become a mother, struggles with her label to maintain autonomy over her life, let alone to keep this baby. Apparently it felt right to force Sinead to get rid of him since she was a new artist. She explains also being fed up.
He and Chris invited me down to Ensign a few days ago. I had lunch with them at Cannes, and halfway through it, Nigel announced he'd like me to stop cutting my hair short and start dressing like a girl. He was disapproving of my recent attempt at a very short mohawk. He said himself and Chris would like me to wear short skirts with boots and perhaps some feminine accessories such as earrings, necklaces, bracelets, and other noisy items one couldn't possibly wear close to a microphone. When he finished speaking, I said to Chris, who had been nodding his head in silent agreement with Nigel's every word, "So let me get this straight. He wants me to look like your mistress and the bird he left his wife for." Silence as I stood up and gathered my keys and ciggies.
Sinead makes a decision to shave her head, but finds herself confronted with an oddly symbolic, traditional Greek barber.
I slid into his red leather chair and announced, "I want to look like a boy." And when it dawned on him exactly what I meant, which because I didn't speak any Greek, I made clear by a series of hand gestures that I think might have at first confused him, he went running for the phone on the wall, maybe to call the owner, tears beginning to well up in his eyes. There was no answer. He was all alone. "Please don't make me do it, please," he beseeched. "Oh my God, what will your boyfriend say? Oh my God." At this, his eyes bulged so with fear that I thought they might pop. And with additional hand gestures, because he didn't speak much Irish, he let me know he really didn't want to risk any males coming around to beat him up. I assured him no one would, though by this stage I was rather considering beating him up myself. After I'd convinced him that I was the sole author of my own destiny despite being female, and explained that my father was in Ireland, conveyed by running around the shop with my arms out like a plane saying, "Irlandes, Papa est in Irlandes." Me, I loved it. I looked like an alien. I looked like Star Trek. Didn't matter what I wore now. When I walked through Ensign, I got stunned silence from Nigel. Doreen, with her back to him, gave me a silent double thumbs up with a playful smile.
A woman trying to assert herself may change her appearance as a last-ditch effort, such as shaving one's head, as a show of strength. However, pop stars who do this, it really has the opposite effect. Often made out to be crazy. I mean, also think about what's been going on with Doja Cat, which I'm not going to get into, but it's a lot. I'm going to leave some videos linked down below if you want to know the timeline of it. It could be its own video. But honestly, I don't think anybody's covering it fairly. I don't even think Doja Cat's processed everything that's happened in the last couple years for her. Back when I was reacting to these interviews, I wanted to know what Sinead was saying that had everyone so up in arms. So let's look at 1991, before the Pope incident, but when she was catching her first controversies for speaking out against the Gulf War, although I didn't know that. Ooh, chivalry. Gentlemen.
I'm sure everybody has heard about.
What is she looking for? Mouse?
Sometimes we get distorted views and misquotes. Why don't you explain why you don't want to go tomorrow? And it's not too late for me and you to get some tuxes and go, you know.
What are they talking about?
I'll take you.
I'd go if I went with you.
Good night!
First of all, I want to point out that it's not just the Grammys that I pulled out of the English awards as well, the English equivalent. The reason that I wanted to pull out was because I believe very much that the music industry as a whole operates mainly, it's concerned mainly with material success, and a lot of artists I think, are responsible for encouraging the belief among people that material success will make them happy. And I think one of the ways that the industry encourages commercial success and materiality is by having award ceremonies which very much honour those who have achieved material success.
Oh, she wasn't going to go to an award ceremony?
Done anything to pass information to people or to inspire people or to, you know, just be truthful about anything.
See how serious she got? You could feel the energy in the room, that they're feeling a little uncomfortable. I can feel that in the room, even though what she's saying is completely true and completely accurate. It's just this automatic tune-off thing that people have once they hear, especially a woman.
Hendrix and Bob Dylan, who probably had never received Grammys.
Well, that's true. I mean, Bob Dylan, I think, received a Grammy for a good vocal performance, which doesn't make any sense to me, or it doesn't make any sense to me. But, well, exactly like when Bob Dylan sang, you know. I mean, he's brilliant, you know what I mean? He should receive Grammys for being brilliant and for speaking the truth and for fighting for the things that he fought for, you know? The same as Ice Cube.
See, that's another thing.
Morrison should, or people like that. And John Lennon has to die before
the good part of CPTSD is being able to sense patterns, see patterns, connect the dots where other people don't necessarily see it. That's probably why her ideas were so ahead of their time. The few things that I know about Sinead O'Connor, like the Pope controversy, she was absolutely accurate about abuse in the Catholic Church. That comes from being able to connect the dots. Have you ever heard that saying, the simple answer is usually the correct answer, something to that effect? I can't remember the exact quote, but I feel like the world operates on that, and I find that almost never to be true. I feel like the answer for me is always complicated. It's always extremely complicated, and explaining it is so difficult. Even though it makes complete sense to you, I feel like people prefer a simple lie rather than a complex truth.
Because, you know, you and I did the MTV Awards together, and you went to the AMAs. Why those and not this one?
Well, first of all, I went to the AMAs purely to confirm everything that I'd been thinking anyway. I'd been thinking about this for a long time before that, and I wanted to go there and see. I wanted to know whether, in the light of there being a world war happening, which is happening because we as a race are
connecting the dots.
Concerned with material success rather than each other. We don't love each other, we don't care about each other, we kill each other, we allow each other to starve to death, you know, we censor each other, you know, we rape each other, we beat each other up, we abuse our children in every way possible, you know what I mean? So in the light of there being a world war, which I think is happening because of all of those things, I wanted to see if any artists would say anything when they had the platform about the war and about how tragic it was, and nobody said a word other than, you know, peace in the Middle East, but I don't know what that means when you're dressed in a suit that's made out of the American flag, you know what I mean? So I wanted to basically...
Kind of like this.
Well...
See, he had to break the tension.
Well, no, there's one thing that must be pointed out.
People were
that,
uncomfortable.
I was talking to you once. We were talking about somebody's response to you was, if you're so unhappy, why don't you quit and go home?
MC Hammer's response.
But and your response to me when we were discussing it is you said, maybe I will. Does it get you down sometimes? You want to quit and just go home?
It does. It's very difficult. It does get me down. I mean, you know, there are things that I really like, but this kind of thing, it's not easy to be the butt of an awful lot of venom and hatred that gets directed at you merely because you've said that you're sorry over the fact that there's a war happening, you know, and that you'd like to do something about it. You know what I mean? There are millions and millions of people who feel exactly the same as I do. If you forget that I'm in any way a public figure, you know, there are billions of people that feel exactly the same as I do, and they don't have the opportunity to say how they feel, and people like us do, and we should do, as far as I'm concerned. But it's very, very difficult just as a 24-year-old girl.
Were you voted by Rolling Stone readers best and worst something in the same category?
I mean, it was best female singer and worst female singer. So it's obviously getting through. So it's obviously going according to plan.
Is that according to plan?
Yeah. Whatever it is you're trying to do, it's definitely getting through.
And what do you think about the positive efforts that have come out of the music industry?
She was too.
Like the We Are the World thing and Live Aid, things like that?
I think that's brilliant. I think that on the part of the artists that were involved, it was brilliant. But if you look at the record companies and how they behaved when all that was going on, record companies were putting adverts out in newspapers saying, you know, buy this record as seen on the Nelson Mandela Show or as seen on Live Aid, using the whole thing for promotion, which is disgraceful. Using it to make money for themselves. You know, I don't know how much of it went to the famine relief, you know.
See, she can't not
This
see
has
the
become
truth.
an international issue with you. Isn't there a DJ that said, I mean, in England, who said you should be spanked or something?
Yeah.
Can you give me his number in case y'all work it out? I'd like to do the spanking.
Oh, I'd like it to. I was going to ask you if you would, actually.
Yeah,
Are they
let's get
flirting?
busy.
Oh,
Let's
what
really
are you
get
doing
busy.
later on?
Yeah.
They are flirting. I could never be as confident as a 1990 Sinead O'Connor. Sexy, flirtatious. To really highlight this, we need to revisit that Dr. Phil interview. Because why was Sinead O'Connor such a truth teller? Because she wasn't listened to.
Smell of evil, you know.
How did she hurt you? How did she hurt you inside?
Smell of evil.
Kicking me, kicking me, and kicking me, and kicking me, and kicking me. And telling me I'm evil and telling me I shouldn't
Look
be
what a
born.
cute little girl
And the
she
reason my
is.
father left is my fault.
All right, change of question. What I wanted from my mother, I did not get.
Cuddles, love, kisses, sweet names, snuggles, sleep in the bed with her, sweet presents.
Tell me what I miss about my mother.
I hate not being able to love her. I hate not being able to have taken care of her, maybe given her some love back, help her. Nobody helped her. I miss that I cannot put my arms around her and tell her I love her and that she's all right and actually, you know, mother her. I wanted to mother her. I would have taken care of her even if she was an absolute monster.
Having your mother be your abuser is so complicated because moms are supposed to be nurturing. That's who they're supposed to be, but we're finding more and more that that's not the case. News stories of mothers killing their children. It's just really, really crazy. My mother was very abusive to me, but I also recognize that my mother was very mentally ill. And I don't know, when I was a kid, the worst thing I could think of was that my mother would die. Even though my mother was so abusive to me, that was the worst thing I could think of. I remember having a dream that my mother had passed away and just being completely distraught. And even now, when I don't have contact with my mother, but I think about her every single day, my fear is that I'll never have resolution with her. I don't know how to have her in my life, but not have her be a destructive force in my life. So I know what it's like to be the person with CPTSD and have everybody kind of like treat you with kid gloves. And then I've also been on the other side of it where how hard it is to be around someone with mental health issues. But it's hard. And that's just the bottom line.
What do you love about your mother?
The first thing that came to my mind actually is that she's dead, which is a very strange thing to come to mind, but I love it about my mother that she's dead. I think it was very kind of her. Although I miss her horribly, I really ache for her, and I think that's part of where my suicidal instinct comes from. Is that I want my mother. But I cannot wait until the day that I naturally get to heaven so that I can see my mother again.
Okay, do this for me. Close your eyes one more time. If you sat before your mother right now, what would you say to your mother?
I'd throw myself on her like a monkey and I'd never let go. I'd tell her, I love you, I missed you so bad, I missed you.
Seeing such a change in her, it really broke my heart. As we age, I mean, we hope to gain confidence. Although, aren't we sometimes like that when we're younger? Perhaps more unrelenting. When we're younger, we're cockier. And you see this a lot on TikTok, too. Lots of calling people out. As we grow older, hopefully we grow more empathy. She still calls them like she sees them. But you see what life has truly done to her. The timeline of all these interviews that I've watched so far is what made me realize this. Remember we started this video with these pictures? I was most fascinated about these two. I had never seen them before. It wasn't the first time that Sinead experimented with the glamorous image. The first time was around the time of that Arsenio Hall interview. Let's recap our timeline. Sinead releases an album in 2012. How about I Be You and You Be Me? Wait, switch that. How about I Be Me and I Be You? How about I Be Me and You Be You? There we go. The album's a minor, unexpected hit. Label and management are like, wow, if you play this right, you could have a comeback and everybody could make a bunch of money. I mean, I'm picturing everybody with like dollar signs. You know in the cartoons, there's dollar signs in their eyes? She just needs to soften her image. Sound familiar? Sounds like the beginning of her career. This time she's gonna play ball. She drew a lot from her childhood on this album. And as we've discussed, her image is fairly tied to things that happened to her in her childhood. The album covers one of Sinead's first disagreements with the label. Her childhood is meant to be represented by the more whimsical drawing, and they wanted to see her on the album cover. Clearly she wins that battle, but in 2013 Sinead records the follow-up, and it's the most radio-friendly album she's made in a long time. In the videos and album's artwork, more effort is put into softening her image. It probably was very triggering for her. But true to Sinead form, she agrees to a makeover, but makes it part of her art, which is where the video for the first single, Take Me to Church, comes in. It starts off like an homage to those glossy videos from the heyday of MTV. While she does look different in the beginning, there's also plenty of call-outs to her past image.
I don't wanna sing from where I sang before. I don't wanna sing that way no more.
Including Sinead's younger face from Nothing Compares to You, almost as if she feels beholden to that image.
Love songs for. I don't wanna sing them anymore. I don't wanna be that girl no more.
However, that makeover was never meant to be serious, and at the end she takes off the wig. Sort of a rejection of this image. And you would never know this if you read the media coverage at the time, taking it all so seriously. Let me read you some of it. She's looking hot. This lady's 47 years old and has 4 kids. When asked, has O'Connor revealed any details of her transformation, like any specific fitness regimen? She just doesn't eat that much. She's not a big eater. People are seeing her in a lot of wigs with this new look of hers. I told her to wear heels for a couple songs, then take them off. She's still the same Sinead, she's just cool. She's 0% photoshopped from the waist down. What does that even mean? I'm not even sure what that means. I don't know, this seems so silly to me. Maybe I'm overreacting, but it seems a little absurd. I don't know who they're talking about. I feel like they're like talking about some former model like Christy Brinkley or Linda Evangelista or somebody, and that she's somehow more acceptable now. The new and improved Sinead O'Connor. It feels very PR-y, but I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. Sells as many records as the album preceding it, and receives good reviews. Lots of money was spent on it and the promotion of it, but expectations were unrealistic. 2013 was not a good year for selling a rock album. Sinead's confused by the disappointment, since more than ever she's doing what's asked of her, without compromising who she is, of course, which is a big step for her. Her book describes How About I Be Me and You Be You as an album that dragged up a lot of her childhood, while the Bossy album, she's more vulnerable than ever. This must have been very tough to have 2 such personal albums deemed disappointments, even though they weren't. In 2015, she also has a hysterectomy, and I'm guessing both of these things is what caused her mental breakdown. And having drug up all that childhood stuff, she's seen in New Jersey and America seeking mental health treatment in 2017. I've only seen part of the infamous Facebook video. Watching it is very hard for me.
Escape all the things that meant it okay for everybody to use the fact that I suffer from 3 mental illnesses as something to beat me with rather than as something with which they might, be compassionate. I'm now living in a Travelodge motel in the arse end of New Jersey, and there's absolutely nobody in my life except my doctor, my psychiatrist, the sweetest man on earth who says I'm his hero, and that's about the only fucking thing keeping me alive at the moment, the fact that I'm his bloody hero. And that's kind of pathetic, and I gave so much love in my life, and I just can't understand how a person can be left so alone, and I want everyone to see what it's like. It's why I'm making this video.
But Dr. Phil, tragedy vulture that he is, sees the video, asks her on his television show. Since then, she's said she felt exploited by it, but she did call it a stepping stone to her spiritual growth that happened later. The next year, she converts to being a Muslim, and despite some controversy, Sinead seemed very happy.
Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for hearing me.
This is what closes the end of her 2022 documentary. And it's not lost on me that she starts the song with "Thank you for hearing me." Honestly, all these interviews have left me with more questions than answers. I definitely want to cover her music, so let me know in the comments what albums you think I should cover. But there's one last Sinead O'Connor interview where she compares herself to a rescue dog. Quote, "As long as I'm not in situations which are at all triggering to me, any previous traumatizing situations, like a rescue dog, I can be calm and cool and happy and content." Unfortunately, her son unalives himself in July of 2022. And I think this tragedy was just the final straw in a life too cruel, the ultimate triggering event. I mean, we don't even know how she left this earth. I also learned from the documentary, whenever Sinead sang her most famous song, "Nothing Compares to You," she said that she always thinks of her mother. And we're
I think it's funny that the world fell in love with me because of crying and a tear. I went and did a lot of crying and everybody was like, "Oh, you crazy bitch." But actually, hold on. You fell in love with that tear. That was a mirror.
People took the good from Sinead O'Connor, but not the package that it came in.
Now that she's no longer with us, people seem finally able to empathize with her. When it's too messy, it's easier to ignore. Somehow, it's more digestible when it's tears in a music video, or for Britney, condensed ideas in a book.
I wish this had a happier ending. At least we have a lot of music to listen to. I look forward to getting into it. If you see another video, there'll be one right here, or you can check out music documentary playlist right here, or you can subscribe to me right here if you feel so inclined. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope I get to see you next time. Popcorn Philosopher over and out.